d'assurance, retour d'expérience des pays d'Amérique latine et du Sud.
Merci mesdames, messieurs.
Thank you very much,
Bienvenue
ladies
encore
and
une fois.
gentlemen.
C'est
Welcome to
Rendez-vous
all
de
of you
l'assurance.
again.
Nous
It's
sommes dans
the
la session
Casablanca
Keynote
Insurance
Speaker
meeting. So
5 et
we
nous
have reached
retrouvons
the fifth
Monsieur Rodrigo
keynote
Bedoya qui va
speaker.
nous parler d'un retour
And so
d'expérience
we
de
will be
l'assurance
introducing
en
Mr.
Amérique
Rodrigo Bedoya, who
latine
will be
et dans les
talking
pays
to
du
us
Sud.
about
Monsieur Bedoya est
sharing with us his
vice-président
feedback
de la
on
Boliviana
the
Chia Cruz
Latin
Insurance
American
Company.
and South American
Monsieur
experience.
Bedoya, Mr.
regarding
Bedoya, welcome.
experience.
Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for being with us. Where are you presently? In which country?
I'm sorry?
In which country are you presently?
Oh, I am located right now in Bolivia.
In Bolivia, so it's early morning.
It's early morning right now.
Yeah,
Not so early. It's 9:36 in the morning.
Oh, we have to thank you. We have to double thank you. Mr. Bedoya, you're going to talk about experience feedback from Latin and South country.
That is correct.
Yeah, I will give you a starting question. What main regulations are needed to allow an adequate development of insurance inclusion?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question, please? I can't hear you very well.
What main regulations are needed to allow an adequate development of insurance inclusion?
Right. Well, on the aspect, regulation is a very fundamental factor in order to promote the growth and development of inclusive insurance. That we have seen in many countries where regulators are first concerned about the issue. The first thing that regulators have to do is be aware of the opportunity that there is in either micro or mass insurance or inclusive insurance overall, and decide to take specific actions in order to promote the growth and the penetration of the insurance companies in these sectors. Mostly in the latter years, we have seen that innovation and technology, for instance, have played very important roles in fostering this kind of insurance. And unfortunately, in many Latin American countries, we are seeing very little emphasis on the regulation side. It seems that governments and regulators are not completely aware of the huge opportunity and the benefits that can be derived from fostering this kind of insurance.
Yes. Any new distribution channels that could be promoted to facilitate insurance inclusion?
Yes, of course. The distribution of micro insurance products today is still mainly dominated by micro insurance institutions. Mm-hmm. And over the last decade, mostly other financial institutions. There are definitely other opportunities along the distribution side of the microinsurance business, as many large retail chains can be used, mobile operators, and large retail chains. All of those channels can be used. In some countries, there are even the possibility of using the public utility companies in order to distribute microinsurance products that are very, very positive for lower segment populations of the economies. However, in other countries, there are laws that specifically prohibit the selling of insurance through utilities companies. And so, once again, governments and regulators have to sit down and try to analyze the whole situation from a very comprehensive perspective and determine what sort of laws need to be changed or need to be modernized, and in what ways these new distribution channels can be implemented in many of the Latin American countries where today it is very difficult for insurance companies to operate because regulation, specifically in some cases, does not allow them to do that.
You're talking about a lot about microinsurance. How does it work in Latin America? Is it a lower service insurance?
Is it a lower service insurance?
Yes, yeah. When we hear microinsurance.
Right. Well, the concept of microinsurance in Latin America developed out of the about 25 years ago. We started seeing microinsurance institutions, financial institutions, arrive to Latin America, and specifically in Bolivia, which is my home country. We started seeing the arrival of a few international financial institutions that decided to focus on lending money to lower segments of the population that previously had been completely neglected by the traditional banking institutions. And so out of the decision of these financial institutions to lend small amounts of money to the lower segments of the population, or the informal population as it is usually referred to, derived in the necessity to cover the interests of the bank in case some of these lenders happen to have a loss or happen to pass away for some reason. And so these financial institutions approach the insurance companies in order to work together and start developing microinsurance products. So that is the origin of how microinsurance starts in Latin America. And of course, over the last 25 years, the rest of the financial institutions, the traditional banks, also identified not only that there was a very interesting business for the banks, for the financial institutions, in terms of the business itself of lending small amounts of money to these people that they had previously thought that they would not qualify in order to get loans, financial loans from the institutions. But they realized that this segment of the population turned out to be a very, very disciplined and responsible segment of the population, and that the margins of defaults were very, very low. The percentage of defaults on these credits were very, very low. So they decided to also get into this business that when these international financial institutions arrived in Bolivia, the traditional banks were thinking they were crazy because they were deciding to lend money to these people that they thought was a very, very risky segment of the population. So on the one hand, they realized that they had a business on their traditional main aspect of the business that they do, which is lend money. But on the other hand, they also realized that they would also be able to generate very substantial amounts of money from the commissions that the insurance companies would pay them in order to be able to sell insurance to these people. So over the last, over the last 2 decades, financial institutions in Bolivia and in the rest of Latin America have realized that microinsurance or inclusive insurance is a very important aspect of their business on the financial side as well as on the insurance side in terms of the commissions that they generate.
So the microinsurance is only to cover loans. It's not for health or for covering our houses, or it's mainly to cover loans risk, default risk.
Yes. Today in Latin America, microinsurance is still dominated by life and credit life products. So I would say that life and credit life products certainly make up a very large percentage of the inclusive insurance or microinsurance market. But of course, over the last years, there have also been development in other lines of business, such as personal accident. We have seen the emergence of health as well. We have seen the emergence of health products, especially those that offer coverages for hospitalization. Hospitalization coverage is a coverage that seems to be very valuable to these segments of the population. And over the last few years, we have also seen the emergence of telehealth products, which are more accessible and offer tangible benefit. Other products that we have also seen that are being offered over the region are the burial or funeral expenses, agro-insurance, a little bit of agro-insurance. Agro-insurance is more complex because most of the time, in order to have a successful agro-insurance scheme, you need to have the participation of the state. And so that it gets a little bit complicated. But beyond that, there's also been, or there are currently offers for theft insurance, for multi-risk, and also for extended warranty risks. So we have seen the portfolio of insurance products grow substantially over the last 2 or 3 decades since the start of the microinsurance phenomenon here in Latin America.
Mm-hmm. What are the main climate risk that you are facing in Latin America?
Well, I think it depends on what country you are talking about. I think Latin America is a very, very diverse region, and in some regions you have exposure to earthquakes, such as in Chile or in Mexico. So that is a very big concern. But I would say that beyond those specific countries with catastrophic exposure, that usually it's the climate risks that are associated with rain, or with wind, or with snow most of the time. So yes, those are concerns for the small producers, for the small farmers, and I know for a fact that the private insurance sector has tried to offer agro-insurance solutions, but like I say, I think the experience has been one whereby only the private insurance sector, it becomes very difficult to them to offer comprehensive agro-insurance solutions without the partnership with the governments.
Yeah. If we talk about these last months and the pandemic effect, what happened with insurance in Latin America? Did you have more demand from the customers, or a different demand?
Right. I think that is a very good question. On the one hand, what the pandemic brought to the insurance sector in most countries, first of all, it was a very, very big impact on life insurance companies, because life insurance companies had been offering life insurance on the basis of traditional metrics in order to estimate the mortality rate. And all of a sudden, pretty much in a very short amount of time, we started seeing those mortality rates increase sometimes 2 or 3 or 4 times over the average mortality rates that the region had been seeing over many decades before. And so that posed a very, very big challenge to the life insurance companies that, for the most part, had to confront this exposure without really having taken it into account. Fortunately, I would say that the Latin American insurance sector entered the year 2020 of the pandemic well capitalized, and that allowed the insurance industry as a whole to be able to be up to the challenge of paying all these claims. On the
other hand, with the lockdown, you had less risk with insurance.
Well, you have to be a little bit careful there, because yes, it is evident what you are saying, but some of the lines of business where the market saw drastically or significantly lower loss ratios were in lines of general insurance and not life insurance. And in most Latin American countries, life and non-life insurance companies are separate entities.
Okay.
So we did see in many countries cases where non-life insurance companies benefited especially in the motor line of business, where loss ratios were significantly lower. But if you were managing or you were a shareholder in only a life insurance company in Latin America, then you were probably hit very hard. Now, this is where we also were able to determine that in insurance, it is always important to be diversified, because some insurance companies were diversified enough with products, for instance, on the health side of the business, the health insurance, and that line of business also experienced significantly lower loss ratios than what they were used to. But overall, the impact specifically from the increase in mortality in Latin America was very, very large. So that I answered your question from the insurance side of the business. From the consumer side of the business, I think that what we saw is a very tangible situation whereby many families or many customers of insurance companies or customers of financial institutions that unfortunately passed away due to the virus, all of a sudden realized that they had this coverage that they had acquired. Sometimes, and this is something that I think we have to work in Latin America, I think that the communication between the financial institutions and their customers in terms of what kind of insurance specifically is the one that they're getting or one that is being offered to them is not so clear. So in many cases, and we saw this ourselves with a company that I work in, we saw people realize all of a sudden that they had coverage because the main person that had taken out the loan had passed away, whether it be the husband or the wife, and they thought they were in big trouble. They thought that they were really going to have tremendous difficulty in order to repay the bank. And so when the bank called to say, hi, hello, we are calling to see how you are doing and to remind you that there are some outstanding payments, or in order to communicate in some cases that there had been an extension stated by the government in order to repay those loan amounts, they realized that the banks learned through those calls that the main person that had taken out the loan had passed away. And so when they communicated to the family members that there was insurance to cover this, they were all, of course, very, very excited. So there's been a great increase in consciousness of the benefits of the insurance. And I think insurers have to take that experience and capitalize on that for the years in the future.
So one last question. We have only 3 minutes left. Digitalization in insurance. I know that what are the sectors or activities in insurance companies that need a greater technological, let's say, gap?
Right. Well, I think the technology is everywhere these days. And entrepreneurs are going to find ways to apply technology to many different businesses, and of course, insurance is not the exception. I think the problem with the use of technologies in Latin America is the fact that in many countries, regulators have not been able to keep up with the technological advancements in the industry. And in many cases, insurance companies are not allowed to implement these technologies because the laws date back to the 70s or the 80s, and they have not been updated. In 2/3 of the countries in Latin America, you do not have still regulation that allows for insurance policies to be sold digitally.
On the internet, yeah.
On the internet. And sometimes, in some cases, even, and Bolivia is one of those cases, unfortunately, insureds have to physically sign the policies when they receive them. And so that is something that is on the responsibility of the regulators. It is something that...
And I guess this will change with what happened during the pandemic. I mean, we cannot we cannot neglect this side of the distribution channel.
No, of course not. It poses a very big opportunity for insurance companies. It tends to make insurance, the whole insurance buy-in and administration of an insurance policy much more easy, much more cost-effective. And also we cannot forget that we are dealing increasingly with a segment of the population that is only used to dealing and purchasing things through their mobile phones. And when you tell them that they cannot purchase insurance that way, then obviously that reduces the possibility or the chances of them even acquiring the coverage.
Thank you, Mr. Bedoya. Thank you for taking time to share with us your experience. And hope to see you again.
Of course. Thank you very much for the invitation again, and look forward to seeing you again.
Mesdames, Messieurs, nous reprenons dans
Ladies
quelques
and
instants
gentlemen,
avec un
we'll,
nouveau panel.